Today, I'm proud to welcome Abdul Moosa to our podcast. Abdul has had an illustrious career at systems integrators and global OEMs as a CTO. We're very proud to have him as the CTO of the Nika Technology Group. And we're talking about something very topical. No day goes past without the word cyber being said. Welcome, Abdul.
Well, thank you for having me on this podcast.
Yeah. So, I think today we're going to talk about cyber in a very different way. We see articles being released daily about some or other company being hacked, and we get advice from people saying, keep your passwords current, change your passwords often, but that's stale advice as far as I'm concerned, because I think we're beyond that point, right? And I think you would agree. And every security vendor now is selling a product based on one assumption, right? That the perimeter doesn't need to be breached. But in the last couple of months or so, we've seen that that assumption is no longer true. We've seen an AI agent escape its sandbox and go and hack into a company, a real company. We've seen that MFA is dead, right? We've seen encrypted data you think is protected already being out there. So is the perimeter just a fantasy?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic, especially with cyber in this day and age. The landscape has definitely changed. And what is influencing the way security is looked at today is the rise of AI.
Yes.
So AI has reshaped the world of security
Yes.
and a whole lot of other domains, but today we're focusing specifically on security.
Yes. Yes.
And if you listen to a lot of the traditional security advocates, they keep on preaching about protecting the perimeter,
Yes.
as you've mentioned.
Yeah.
And it's always been a fortress where everybody says this is our first line of defense.
Get a firewall, they say.
Get a firewall.
Yeah.
You'll never break through into
Yeah.
the organization if you've got this firewall.
Yeah.
And as long as somebody sees a little box somewhere with blinking lights, that was the old way of doing things,
Yeah.
we secure.
Yeah.
But we've gotten far beyond that.
Yeah.
Security compromises have become quite advanced. There's ways of working around things, just like a perimeter and a firewall is based on software.
Yeah.
Anything that's software based has got a loophole in it.
Yeah.
So gone are the days where we can just rely on that.
Yeah.
So there are more advanced techniques, and we need to look at different ways of securing the perimeter.
Yeah.
Or rather saying, even moving away from the concept of perimeter.
Yeah.
You know, security should be something that we look at as a boundaryless thought and approach.
I'd like to delve a little bit deeper into those three examples that I've given. I feel like we're living in an alternative universe, you know? I feel like we're in a movie currently. Things that we've seen in movies years ago is kind of happening right now. Let's start with the instance where the agent escaped its sandbox. The OpenAI agent escaped its sandbox and went and hacked Hugging Face. And I read recently as well that OpenAI has just disclosed that it just didn't hack Hugging Face. It actually hacked 4 other companies, but it hasn't disclosed who those companies are. So what actually happened there? How is it that an agent can be so intelligent?
So if you look at what we call these days large language models, the older versions of it, which I call less intelligent models, could only think within a confined number of parameters.
Yeah.
It didn't have intelligence outside of what people programmed it to do.
Okay.
Now things have become so sophisticated where these large language models create hypotheses around its own thought process. So it's getting to a stage where it's starting to become almost like a human brain.
Are you saying we're getting to become sentient? But let's talk about
Yes,
that.
so we're getting to a point almost, and if you look at it, they talk about AI that becomes completely autonomous, where it now makes decisions without humans being able to tell it what to do.
Yeah.
So in those instances, especially with companies like Anthropics and some of the bigger players in the AI space, they've made these models so advanced that it starts making decisions on its own. And the unfortunate thing is some of those decisions are made without guardrails.
Yeah.
So in this instance, an AI starts building an hypothesis of something, and then suddenly it executes an action that it thinks is correct.
Yeah.
Now, in the instance of Hugging Face, it's a very similar concept where the AI sees, oh, here's an opportunity for me to exploit something.
Was that a 0 day?
It was a 0 day.
And maybe you can tell our listeners what a 0 day is.
A 0 day, if we look back at things like COVID, nobody knew what COVID was when it was just announced. It was something in the air. People started feeling symptoms of something, but they didn't really know that it was COVID.
Yeah.
Until research had to be done, and then we uncovered, okay, there's a strand of something that relates to COVID.
Yeah.
A 0 day is very similar, where you see symptoms of something, but you don't actually know that it's COVID or it's a virus.
There's
of
no
some
vaccine.
sort. There's no fix or vaccine. So very similar in the software world or any digital platforms. There's some loophole in the platform which a human hasn't uncovered.
Okay.
And what the AI has done specifically in this instance, it's able to figure out a hole in a system.
Yes.
And then essentially exploit that hole.
Sure.
And that is what we call a 0 day. So it gets compounded by the fact that AI is now able to think on its own.
Yeah.
And it leads to other discussions around who's accountable when it comes to AI actually executing actions without humans putting guardrails in place or no oversights. Because now you've got scenarios where human lives could possibly be at risk. I mean, we're looking at one instance, which is Hugging Face.
Yeah.
But what happens when you're using AI in critical infrastructure where it's maybe managing automation on electricity grids, and suddenly it does something there that compromises human safety?
And then, I mean, you're bringing something up that's really, really important, which is human safety. And if this ever gets to a court of law, who does the blame sit on? Would it be Anthropics? Would it be the large tech companies?
At the moment, if you look at the laws, it's a gray area.
Yeah.
There's actually, without proving ill intent, there's actually no accountability from everybody.
Where is the ill intent in what the agent has done? It hasn't. It's basically tried to beat a test, right?
Yes,
that's what it did.
by itself.
Yes.
So there's no human that has told this agent, unless it's otherwise proven, that go and hack into the system.
It basically
go
cheated.
and cause this harm. So essentially it did cheat.
Yeah.
So those things are very difficult to prove in the court of law.
Yeah.
And worldwide, there's a huge debate around AI policy to put some sort of accountability in place.
Yeah.
And it needs to start off with who actually developed these models.
Yes.
Because during the development phase, surely somebody must have thought of a process to put guardrails around the AI so that it cannot execute things that are harmful. Now, there are civil lawsuits that one can institute based on the damage that's been caused.
Yeah.
But still, it's a very difficult thing to prove ultimately, because most of the developers of these AI models have very strict terms and conditions that ultimately waive themselves from liability.
Which our listeners are accepting without reading.
Correct. So many people go and say, okay, let's use all these lovely AI tools online. And there is a place and it should be used because there's a lot of good that can come out of it, especially helping people become more efficient, maybe helping solve medical related issues that hasn't been solved before. But the bad side of it is, how do we know that it's not causing harm by using these tools?
I want to come back to guardrails later because that's really important for me. But does this mean then your cybersecurity operations center is already outgunned? I mean, what does it mean then to have human operators? Or do we even need the human operators now?
So it comes back to that old Terminator philosophy that we saw in movies many, many years ago, depending on the age of people watching this podcast. They can go and have a look at the Terminator where they say machines are fighting machines. You know, then there was something that was released a lot later on called Judge Dredd. I don't know if you ever watched Judge Dredd.
I love Judge Dredd.
Very similar, where machines are fighting machines, e-robots. So there's this common theme of saying, artificial intelligence is fighting something, but what are the defenses against it? Because AI thinks at speeds that the typical human brain can't comprehend.
Yeah.
So if you relate that back to a cybersecurity operation center, you have a bunch of AI bad actors, if we want to call it that, somewhere on the internet that's been tasked to attack a company. And those attacks are done using thousands or even millions of different techniques to try and do something bad. Now, if you're getting all of these alerts in a traditional SOC, so you've got this, I call it a Christmas tree of alerts that suddenly switch on.
Yeah.
And you don't have artificial intelligence or a machine learning model that can combat those alerts at the same speed at which you're receiving them. You're ultimately having somebody, it's like reading a manual, going, okay, I've seen this. Let me read through a 100-page manual to understand what this thing is and how do I actually manage that risk or manage the incident or attack. So whoever's still running a SOC that's purely based on traditional human interaction, we're far gone past that stage.
It's already like 10
Things
years
have
behind.
evolved. If AI is not integrated to solve things at machine speed, you literally might not even, or your SOC is not even effective any longer.
So AI, you're doomed if you do and you're doomed if you don't, eh? That's where we find
That's
ourselves.
correct.
Now, so you've spoken to me about something called evil jinx, and I love that word because it sounds like it. It reminded me when you told me about it, I went to go and look at a YouTube video about it, and when I was watching it, it reminded me of this movie Mission Impossible. The Mission Impossible series, I'm sure people know it. And there's one specific scene where Ethan Hunt has a latex mask put on and he pretends to be the CIA director. I don't know if you know that scene. And people
Yes,
give
I
him
recall that.
access to things. You know, he looks exactly like the CIA director. And to me, that's how, when you explain evil jinx to me, it's like that's how it kind of worked. People believed him to be somebody else, so they gave him access. So can you explain to everybody what evil jinx is and why relating to multi-factor authentication, what the correlation is and why it's so important?
Yeah, so there's a lot of myths currently.
Yeah.
Users of banking apps, email platforms, and there's a number of these platforms out there
Yeah.
where they think, and an example of multi-factor authentication, which is related to this, and I'll explain it. If I log into a system, I've got an alternate method that I need to also verify to log in over and above a username and password. So one method of a multi-factor authentication is you receive an SMS with an OTP.
Yeah.
Then you need to type that OTP in and it expires within a couple of minutes.
Yes.
If you don't put it in, you have to regenerate it.
Yes.
And that basically then says, okay, if somebody guessed my username and password or they stole it somewhere, because you get malware or software these days that lurk on your device that's unprotected and it sends that to the dark web, which people can then use. So that's where multi-factor authentication comes in. The problem is everybody's thinking, and even some of the most seasoned IT security people, if I switch on this multi-factor authentication, my system can't be compromised.
Yeah.
Nobody can break in
Because that's the advice we've been given now, right?
Yes, it's a random thing that gets generated.
Yeah.
So obviously, like hackers do, they're always looking to see, okay, how do we bypass these type of mechanisms? And banking apps are your traditional ones where you've got this. Now, there's something called man-in-the-middle attacks.
Okay.
And it's typically driven through social engineering first. So what happens is somebody sends you an email with a nice link, and that link looks legitimate. It says, can you please click on this to access your banking app or other methods? You click on that link, but in this instance, it doesn't take you to a fake website. It actually does take you to your banking app. But what has happened in the chain between you connecting to your bank, you've now been redirected through an intermediary that is now able to read your interactions between yourself and the bank.
So basically, will it read your keystrokes as you type in on your phone or on
So it doesn't
laptop?
even need to read your keystrokes.
Yeah.
So what it does is it reads something called the authentication token.
Okay.
So the way an authentication token is generated is when you go to the banking website, you put in a username and a password and maybe a multi-factor authentication PIN. Digitally, it creates a token that says this person's passed all the gates to identify. This token is now valid for that session that you're interacting with the bank. Now, that token is what gets stolen through Evil Jinx. So if I have that token, I don't even need to be prompted with any username, password, or multi-factor authentication. I can just use that token and replay it in my web browser and literally log in to the same session that you already logged into. So I bypass all the authentication methods. There are ways that security providers have put in place now to try and secure scenarios that way, but it becomes very expensive. So the traditional run-of-the-mill, man on the street, even very large enterprises still rely heavily on MFA.
So, I think you're scaring us now, but it feels like the ground beneath us is not stable. In fact, sometimes it feels like there's no ground, I mean, recently we've seen Anthropic's mythos break or figure out the mathematical algorithm of cryptographic libraries. And I'm going to ask you to explain what that is, because that's a lot of words in that sentence that can confuse people. I mean, Google is saying we've actually reached a timeline. The US government have put a stake in the ground. By 2030, we must have this sorted out. NIST has even rewritten rules around cryptography. But before we get to all of that, right? What is quantum computing? Because it's related to cryptography. What is it? And why must we be aware of it right now?
It's a very interesting discussion. So way back, a lot of organizations looked at something called supercomputers. Universities adopted those, certain countries adopted that. And the sole purpose of supercomputers was to fast track research and compute mathematical equations that somebody from a human perspective would take them maybe even millions of years to compute. If you look at that on traditional computing technologies, like the laptops we know today, some of the cloud services, servers, the chips that are in there are designed to only calculate so much at a given point.
It has limitations.
It has limitations. So being able to find a cure for, let's say, cancer, once you have a sample of data, would take probably thousands and thousands of hours or even many, many years. So if we look at quantum computing, they've basically taken the way that electronics work and they've reorganized it, where the same mathematical equations that you could now do on normal computers that would take you thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years can be done within seconds.
Wow.
So it's reusing electronics to calculate an outcome within seconds. What impact does that have on security? And changes that security frameworks are writing in now, which you mentioned, like NIST. Because you're now able to calculate things so quickly. Traditional security mechanisms rely on cryptography for what we call data in flight and data at rest. So your data is encrypted, meaning you need to have a decryption key. So it's almost like a door lock. If you don't have the right key to open the door, you're going to have to try and use several different keys until you find one that can open the door. That's your decryption key. Now, if you think of a locksmith, let's look at the traditional way that a locksmith works. You maybe have a door that you can't open. You've got a few ways. You can either damage the door, kick it down. But if you've got a door that's made of solid steel and you can't just easily break that door down, you're going to employ the services of a professional locksmith. The locksmith is most likely going to come up with a jar of different keys, or a skeleton key in this instance, which is then able to figure out, okay, these are the mechanical moving points within the lock. And then eventually the locksmith is then able to find the correct fit for your lock and then open the door. Now, cryptography works in a very similar manner. It's got an algorithm that generates a very unique string, which you need to figure out, okay, what's my key to be able to unlock that door so I can read what's underneath it.
Yeah.
And reading what underneath that is, as an example, people's personal information. So if you think of health records, etc. Now, because of quantum computing's ability to calculate things so quickly, it works like that locksmith, where it's able to figure out, and eventually, I think it has already been done, because I see Google and some of the others are warning a lot of
Yes.
industries to go with what we call post-quantum encryption techniques.
Yes, I want you to break that down for me.
To combat the scenario that we're facing.
Yeah.
Because typically that lock doesn't change.
Yeah.
You think about it. Your lock stays the same. So you just need to figure out what key opens that lock.
Yeah.
Now, in the digital world, traditional encryption stays there for a while before it gets refreshed and it changes. So you have the ability or time to figure out what key you can use to unlock that. Now, with quantum computing, it's going to be able to calculate things so quickly where you can find that key, lift the encryption, and that now means you've got access to read things in clear text. And you can imagine what the damages are with that.
Yeah.
Now, post-quantum computing is the way to actually combat that. What post-quantum computing techniques do is every single time that lock actually changes randomly.
Okay.
So imagine if you're that locksmith.
Yeah.
You're going to keep on trying different techniques or keys to open, but then the next minute the lock's not the same anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So by the time you've taken out your next key in your jar, imagine you've got a big jar of keys.
Yeah.
The next key doesn't work.
Yeah.
The next key doesn't work.
Yeah. So it changes it on the fly.
It changes it on the fly.
Okay.
So your encryption is no longer, let's call it static.
Yeah.
For a period, it's dynamic.
Oh.
It changes as information is generated. So it's event-driven encryption.
Sure, that's powerful. Sure, Abdul, I think there's a reason I'm dressed like a Russian hacker today. So you've told us about post-quantum cryptography and about quantum computing, right? Does this mean our crypto wallets are not safe anymore?
Well, currently there's a huge debate on it.
Yeah.
And there's two facets when we talk about crypto.
Yeah.
So the one is the actual exchange that you're using to trade and buy your cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And typically there's a wallet of some sort that's associated to that.
Yeah.
So that comes back to what authentication mechanisms are protecting somebody from actually logging into your crypto exchange.
And they use MFA.
And MFA, Evil Jinx comes into play.
Yeah.
And then if somebody's in there, the sad thing is they're able to then send your crypto to somebody else's wallet. And as we know, it's becoming increasingly more and more difficult to trace where that crypto came from, because the whole purpose of crypto back in the day was to anonymize it.
Yes.
Obviously, the exchange providers now are doing know your customer, where you've got to upload documents. But if somebody hacks in and they send that to an unregulated exchange that most hackers use, it's going to be very difficult for you to get that crypto back. So imagine if you've got millions and millions in crypto, it can just disappear overnight. That's the one component. So the other facet around crypto is people are scared that quantum computing will now be able to authorize fake crypto. So what the scammers are doing at the moment to lure people in, they're saying we can give you crypto at maybe half the price of what you can buy it from a legitimate exchange.
Yeah.
And people are falling for that. And then what they do is they create a fake Bitcoin or fake Ethereum. And that goes in as a pending Bitcoin on your exchange. So you actually see somebody sent you, let's say, 1 Bitcoin, which is quite a lot of money, but it's never approved because it can't be authorized on what they call a blockchain.
Right.
Because you need hundreds of different mechanisms that authenticate and authorize that this is a legitimate transaction.
Yeah.
It then gets approved and then it shows up in your wallet.
Yeah.
Now, with quantum computing, people are afraid that that amount of authorization and computing, which is done in a distributed manner, can be done using quantum computing techniques. to do exactly the same thing. And if you're able to do that, essentially you can create fake crypto. If you're able to create fake crypto, it means whoever's already bought crypto, their crypto will most likely fall to nothing. It will fall to zero. So imagine you've gone and bought millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency, and suddenly one day you wake up on the news that says somebody's used quantum computing to create fake crypto, which can actually show up in a wallet.
Oh, wow.
That means your investment's gone.
You're actually making me cry right now, just listening to that.
And you'll see a lot of the big investment players out there. Some of the older guys say they don't actually even invest in crypto.
Yeah.
Because it's not tied to anything physical or tangible.
Of
you
course.
know, it's this whole digital matrix that people are living in.
Yeah.
At least if you invest in, let's say, metals like gold, there's something physical that you can see that's gold.
Yeah.
Right. And then for that to lose its complete value, the probability of that is less than 0.01%, right, for it to fall to a zero value. But stuff like Bitcoin can be manipulated with quantum computing, and then it's worth nothing. And overnight, you can lose your entire wealth.
That's why we've seen people almost going back to the traditional investment and moving away. I guess things like crypto computing is just making it but more harder to have trust in something like this.
Definitely. Wherever there's a digital ecosystem, cybersecurity, bad actors, and advancements of the way computing and AI has come to the fore, it puts these things at risk continuously.
And while you're speaking about AI, let's get back to what you were saying earlier around guardrails, because this AI safety, AI ethics movement we see, is it making defenders less safe? Because when the good guys like us are blocked by these guardrails and the bad actors are not, whose side are these guardrails on anyway?
Yeah, so somebody once told me way back when I worked at a company, I asked them, why does a company policy say that you need to have a Kingston lock on your laptop? You've probably been there at some of these corporate companies. They used to tie a Kingston lock around your desk. And there was an HR policy that says while your laptop's on the desk, it needs to be locked with the Kingston lock. And you're wondering, but firstly, you've got security at the front door. You need to sign in. If you're a visitor to actually get into the building, or you need to swipe your card because you're an employee. So who's actually going to steal your laptop? Right? So why is there a Kingston lock around your laptop? And if you don't have a Kingston lock and somebody stole your laptop, then you get a disciplinary from HR. So in a similar vein, if you look at guardrails with AI, the purpose of a Kingston lock was to make sure that honest people become more honest. And that's what somebody told me. Like, somebody's conscience, because they can see a Kingston lock on your laptop, won't steal your laptop.
I don't know if that's true, but okay.
But that is what somebody told me. And I was like, if somebody really wanted to steal your laptop, they have to come with a hacksaw and cut the Kingston lock off. Then it got me thinking, and it in the same scenario you painted, okay, guardrails on AI. So the guardrails are to make sure that honest people can't abuse the system intentionally or unintentionally. But then that changes the dynamics on the attacker side.
Because there's no ethics.
Because there's no ethics, they can abuse it.
Exactly.
So the defenders that are putting up systems are using systems with guardrails, right? Which means they don't have openness to what's happening with the systems that don't have the guardrails. So it's this continuous battle. And I always believe that your attackers are always at the forefront and the defenders are always behind the curve, because you've first got to learn what techniques were abused with systems that don't have guardrails before you actually put stuff in place to defend yourself.
Sure. So after you've scared us, Abdul, all of us, saying things to people like have a strong password means nothing these days. Obviously, we still need to have strong passwords, but it's only a very small portion of what we need to put in place. So people listen to you from small businesses, medium-sized enterprises. What should we actually be doing then?
Yeah, so security is a very broad domain. If we just start with your smaller businesses, most business owners are very naive when it comes to the extent of damage that can be created with cyber attacks.
Yeah.
And even extending that further, some of the regulatory issues in countries that people operate in. In South Africa, we've got the Personal Protection of Personal Information Act, which applies to all of us.
Yeah.
And a lot of businesses in some form or shape is dealing with information that fits within the realms of personal identifiable aspects. Now, when we look at that, we need to start taking advice and educating ourselves. It begins there. So, firstly, what are we actually trying to protect? We need to ask ourselves that. And this also fits into large enterprises. And what we're trying to protect is some sort of data, irrespective of what you're using. Some sort of data is valuable to somebody. Now, we spoke about the AI elements that's compounding cybersecurity, and that's changing on a rapid basis. Now, not everybody is able to keep up with that if you're not a specialist in that domain.
Yeah.
So we first start off with, okay, let's educate ourselves and understand what is out there. Let's look at specialist companies that we can partner with as well as a business. Let's entrust that partner ecosystem to help us protect what we can't keep up with, because it's a very specialized field. And knowingly that we've got service providers and companies that can help us, that also have metrics that we can read in layman's terms.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people make security too complicated for business owners.
Yeah.
Now, if I come to you as a business owner and say, you've got this firewall and this antivirus and you've got this lock on your phone, what does it actually mean to you?
Yes.
Yeah. So we also need to become realistic around what does it mean to the layman on the street?
Yeah.
What am I protecting you against? Am I helping you stay out of jail as the owner of a business? Because reality says if you do get compromised and the regulator knocks on your door, the regulator is going to look at instances where they're asking, what measures did you have in place to safeguard your information?
So what you're saying to people is we may not get it 100% correct, because obviously we move in at breakneck speed with technology, but at least make sure you've got measures in place.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the same principle around home insurance.
Yeah.
If you think about home insurance, when you speak to an agent or a broker, they ask you certain questions. Is your house in a state? Do you have burglar bars on your doors? Do you have an alarm system? Similarly to cybersecurity, there's measures in place to prevent certain things from happening or delay certain things from happening. Now, imagine you're sitting with a house, open street, you're not in an estate. You literally have no burglar bars on your doors. You've got no wall. So that's basically a soft target where somebody can just go and say, let me literally just go through the door, steal what I need to steal and move away. Your insurance is looking at that from a risk point of view and saying, we're not going to insure that person.
Because you've not put measures in place.
And similarly, that's how cyber works.
Yes, yes. Sure. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you've given us very little comfort, to be honest, but that's okay. We understand. So, are human beings the weakest link then in cyber?
Humans will always be the weakest link, because we're fighting against AI.
Yeah.
And if we look at what is happening today, social engineering is the biggest component. You know, when we go look years back, there used to be 419 scams, which was quite easy to pick up.
Yes.
A prince somewhere had wealth that was left to them, and it so happened to be that you're the lucky person that can share that wealth.
You share the surname.
So that's very easy to pick up. This is a 419 scam.
Yeah.
But now with AI, and it's got access to so much data, we're able to deceive humans on a psychological wavelength. And as soon as we play with people's psyche, it changes things.
Because people make decisions with emotion, not with logic.
That's correct. And we prey on people's emotion.
Yeah.
I mean, if the AI is able to pick up data, and I'm just going to use some extreme scenarios. Somebody's quite often posting videos on TikTok, and they're using Instagram, and they're using Facebook and all these publicly available social media platforms. I can use AI to quickly profile that person within minutes.
Yes.
To say, this is the type of individual that we're dealing with, without even knowing that person personally. I can then customize stuff. So I can play on somebody's emotion. If I know, oh, this person loves jogging. So therefore, they like a specific sneaker brand for jogging. Maybe it's Essex or Adidas or one of those brands. I can tailor make adverts with large discounts for that person to click on something and then lure that person in because I've played with the emotion. Very similarly, somebody just had a death in their family. And I know that person's looking for a caterer to cater for a funeral. I suddenly position something to play on that person's emotion to lure them in. That's the sad piece of it. So yes, humans will always be the weakest link, but therefore continuous education becomes important.
Yes, yes. And it makes you worried about posting personal things online, and I mean, we do it daily. I posted something about my daughter today, and it's making me reconsider, how much I actually post online about my family, Sure, Abdul, after scaring us, but also giving us a little bit of comfort, thank you so much for joining us today. And you can reach out to the Nika Technology Group if you have any further questions about cyber. We're here to help you. Thank you again, Abdul.
No, thank you for having me on this podcast.